Welcome to today's Two Saints show with myself, Mark C, and my co-host, Mark H. Hi, Mark. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, mate. Can't really say that the football's going that well at the moment.
Well, we're not losing.
We seem to have slightly lost our way over the Christmas New Year period, but hope springs eternal for Liverpool next Monday night.
Yeah, smash them. We've got a day off as well, so they make the best of that, hopefully. Yeah, I think it's fair to say the players have definitely had their Christmas, haven't they? So you lot, sort yourselves out now. You've had your Christmas. Time to crack on and get some points on the board.
I just want to say to the listeners that, I hope they're looking after each other, and hopefully what we're going to serve up today, will improve their mood.
Absolutely right. And just remind everyone,
you can think so, though.
So just remind you all, you can catch the Two Saints show every single week on Fiesta 95 FM, 1 to 3 p.m. with myself, Mark C, my co-host Mark H. And you can also contact us on our email address for that, which is the Two Saints podcast show at outlook.com, which you can access the podcast and the radio show by contacting us through that. Obviously, the podcast is available on Facebook and also YouTube at the moment. There are other platforms available in the near future, which at the moment we've taken a temporary break from those, but they will be back on very soon. So, there we go. Coming up for you in the first half of today's show, we have the Two Saints review of Fulham 0, Saints 0, and Saints 0, West Ham 0. So, a few little words, and we'll be straight back with you right after that.
It's the Two Marks, C and H, on the Two Saints show, Fiesta 95 FM.
Welcome back, everybody. Two Saints review of Saints 0, Fulham 0. Ralph Hasenhüttl was pleased with the clean sheet. Carl Walker-Peters highlighted defensive capabilities within the team. Ralph was happy with summer signing Diallo's first Premier League start. He was also happy to use Long's experience as he did a good job at Fulham. And he believes that Saints should have had a penalty against Fulham. And I tend to agree with him, Mark. I thought it was quite a clear case for a penalty, to be fair.
Right.
But what was your take on it? I thought it was an all right performance, but not amazing, was it?
I would say for a 0-0, there was enough incidents going on. Sadly, we won't be saying that about the West Ham game, but suffice to say that early doors, Fulham had an opportunity. Header went over the top of the bar. That they also had a chance with Mitrovic, 5 minutes on the pitch. Thankfully, it came to him while he was still cold. Shot went wide. And then you come to us, and I would have said, JWP hits the bar, or the stanchion, whatever you want to call it, comes back off the stanchion. Not sure what Che Adams was doing. He looked a bit like Bambi on ice, trying to see if he could control it to start off with. So, I don't know. I mean, we'll let that one slide. Then we had...
I think that was more close to get something on it to stick it away. It was all we needed to do, really.
Yeah, then we had Shea offside for Theo Walcott's goal. And we also had Shane Long offside for Shane Long's goal. Yeah. And then we come to the contentious penalty, because I thought, well, we'll leave this to last. The decisions for me up until that point were fairly straightforward. Unfortunately, we had a second-rate official in charge, Mr. Darren England, who I'm not a big fan. He's been in the Premier League now for 2 seasons, and I mean, he would struggle to control a game between 22 cardboard cutouts, never mind 22 grown men. But I mean, it was, look, the ball. The thing is, Mark, though, and I've got to say this on balance, okay?
Yep.
Fulham did have a shout for a penalty themselves off of Bednarek, right? Now, we've spoken about this off base, and we both felt that Bednarek's hands, or arms or whatever were in a natural position, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Whereas clearly when the ball comes into the box, the Fulham defender, forgive me, I can't remember his name, but Fulham defender clearly has his right hand, or his right arm away from his body.
Yep.
Okay? Clearly has it away from his body. And under certain circumstances, you would have said, surely that goes to a VAR review. But then apparently John Moss was in charge of the VAR. It did go to VAR and it wasn't given. Now, all this is a very grey area, especially this season. Because there's no fans in the stadium, and you wonder, would these things happen if supporters were putting, home supporters were putting pressure on the ref, all this kind of thing. And I sort of look at it and I think to myself, well, okay, fair enough, he didn't give it, but I've seen decisions like that going for teams. So maybe it was just our turn to be unlucky with VAR, because to be fair, we've had a few decisions go our way, so maybe it was just our turn.
Yeah, I think our luck finally ran out.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is it was an interesting encounter without being spectacular.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I always felt going into the game that it was going to be difficult. They're on a run of form where they're not losing games. I think they've lost 1 in 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was always, you're always sort of on a hide the nothing. I suppose you could turn around and say, the plus side was it was a point away from home.
Yeah, I mean, Ralph actually said it was. Ralph actually alluded to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the other thing before I, give over to the rest of what you're going to say, I mean, the other thing to remember is 2 seasons ago, although they got relegated, they beat us at Craven Cottage.
Exactly.
And I know that's 2 seasons ago, and people's expectations have been raised, but it's, I suppose on a positive note, you would say it's a point away from home. I'll take the point.
Absolutely right. Yeah, and Ralph actually said, I think it was okay. I think we had bigger chances than the opponent and scored 2 goals. The second one was fantastic play, a little bit unlucky. We had a big chance in the first half after the free kick when Shea had a chance to score. I saw one handball in the box that I think can be a penalty, but in the end, to take point is not so bad. It's tough. The pitch is tight. They put a lot of pressure on. If you concede, you have a very rare chance to come back. So the clean sheet was most important today. I'm happy for the point for the guys after the loss against Man City. It was important we take the next point without losing again. I'd certainly agree with that. It was important not to lose if we couldn't win. The only concern for me, Mark, is the lack of chances we're creating at the moment. And that for me is a major concern. Because obviously we've got people capable of putting the ball away, but we're not providing them any chances to do that, are we really?
No, I mean, I think the one thing you would say though, Mark, is like, a lot was made of the fact, obviously, the talisman was missing, Danny Ings, right? And I don't care what's going on, that does have an effect. If you're missing your star players and our star, I've no problem in saying it. Our star players are JWP and Danny Ings, and if they're not at it, we're void of any ideas. We're really void of any ideas. We've got a workman-like team that give 100%.
I agree with it.
And I can't fault them for it. 100% effort. Well, they did up until the Fulham game, but we'll leave that till we get to West Ham, right? Yeah. But all I would say is the thing with Ralph is he has turned ordinary players into decent footballers.
Absolutely right.
That's all I'm prepared to say about it. I'm not going to turn around and say to you, Vestergaard's turned into a world beater, because he hasn't. You know, it's that simple.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Carl Walker-Peters said, we're all really happy with the clean sheet. We're really happy with how solid we were. We always say defend first, we'll always get chances. If you don't concede, you have more chance of winning. Fulham have some good attacking players, a tough side, so we had to be resilient to stop them creating any real clear-cut chances. I'd agree with that. And the thing is, I think the defence is looking quite solid at the moment. They've only conceded 1 in like 3 games, and that was to Man City, to be fair. So defensively, we're looking quite solid. So you've got a foundation to build on now. And I think Ralph's actually now identified where the issues are, and he's looking to work on that now. So I think if he builds on that solid foundation of defending that we've got quite good at recently, then we've definitely got something to build on there. And the rest of the season looks quite promising. But they have got to build on it, haven't they?
I mean, it comes back in twofold. I mean, you know, I'll say this as part of this review. I mean, the last few games, I think the last 4 games for me, you know, Carl Walker-Peters has been our best player. You know, that doesn't necessarily say a lot about going forward. When, you know, he gets forward when he can, he's a supporting fullback. But more defensively, you know, when I look at what he was doing against Fulham particularly and West Ham the other night, you know, he's getting his tackles in, getting blocks in. And it's surprising because you sort of look at him, you know, he's quite small, but he's doing his job. And you know, he's getting forward as well, which, you know, it tends to catch the eye on the occasions when we have got a bit of forward momentum. But as I say, you know, it's difficult at the minute. I just don't think, for me at the moment, there's enough going forward, and it's not just that, Mark. You know, it's a void of quality. You know, that like I said, Danny Ings didn't play, and that made a massive difference for us because he is the talisman. You know, James Ward-Prowse tried to make things happen, but it's very difficult when you're a void of absolute quality, and you know, and it shows.
Yep, absolutely right. I agree with that. And talking of players coming in and players of quality and players doing this and players doing that, obviously Ralph said he was quite pleased with the way Ibrahima Diallo played. Didn't necessarily make a great start, but about half hour in, Mark, he started to sort of find a bit of rhythm in the game, didn't he? And he put in a pretty solid performance in Romeo's absence. It wasn't a bad start. I mean, his debut, pretty good start for him, to be fair.
No, he didn't. He didn't let anybody down, mate. I mean, you know, the thing is you're coming into a game, you know, cold as it were. I know he's had minutes under his belt, but first start, pretty much knows he's going to be playing most of the full 90 at least. You know, and I thought he equipped himself well. You know, because we all know that it takes a certain amount of adjusting in the Premier League, you know, hence we're not seeing Salisu at the minute. I mean, you know, it's obviously a bigger issue for some of the Saints fans out there than it is for myself, you know, because I haven't got an issue with it. I just think you know, everybody needs time to adjust and settle and things like that. I mean, you know,
in fairness, Ralph's actually said he's for the future, so nobody can argue with that. You know, you've got to have faith in the manager. He's brought him in with an eye to the future. He says he's the future of the club. So, you know, if he's the future of the club, I don't have an issue with that. We've got to look to the future because at some point, some of the more experienced players in the squad won't be there. The likes of Ryan Bertrand, Danny Ings, Romeo, these players won't be there forever. So you have got to look to the future as well. I don't have an issue with that. Some fans are just losing their head over it, which is fair enough.
That's fine. That's not a problem for me. But the only thing I would say, Mark, is that some of the time when we do these signings, right, you know, you've got to have players also coming in that can hit the ground running for you. I mean, the thing is like last year, for example, okay, we bought Shea Adams, right? Now, I said to you, give him a season because he's got to adjust. He's coming up from the Championship. But in all honesty, Saints would have preferred for him to hit the ground running because that affected our season. And then when he found his mojo at the restart, Saints were a different proposition.
Yep.
Absolutely
agree with that. 100%. Yeah, and people question, obviously, why Shane Long is given an extension to his contract, why he gets played ahead of other players. Well, it's what he does in training, everyone, and it's the effort he puts in when he plays. He doesn't score a lot of goals, but it's the effort he puts in when he plays. And he does cause issues for teams when he comes on. Because of the runs he makes, because of the leap he's got on him in the air, he's capable of winning long balls and stuff like that. And he does cause issues for teams when he comes on. So for me, it's not a case of Shane Long coming in with a view to winning the game or changing the game. That's not why he's being brought on. He gets brought on to shore things up front because he gives us an out. And we haven't got a lot of players in the team, unfortunately. Without Danny Ings, we don't have a lot of players in the team that give us an out on the counter-attack or when we're under pressure towards the end of a game. So for me, I get why Shane Long gets brought on. Other people are expecting him to go out there and score goals and win games. That's not why Shane Long's being played. That's not his role anymore.
No, it's an
and his goal scoring record dictates that as well. To be fair, no offense to Shane,
I get what Hasenhüttl's saying there, but on the flip side of that, Mark, right? And this is the thing. I mean, he's saying, I'm happy to use Shane Long's experience. He's an international. He can trot all those things out, right? But the bottom line is he has no other choice. He doesn't have any other choice. And this is what I come back to. Quality and depth of squad are the two major issues that we have. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know that there isn't going to be a magic wand, and we just have to put up with what we've got at the moment. And it is what it is. And that situation probably won't change for the next 18 months. So Ralph's doing a tremendous job. But, you can't really turn around and say, oh, no, I'm happy to play this player when, there's no real other alternatives, I mean, because Obafemi's not giving him that alternative at the minute. And the only other alternative is Dan Lulu. And obviously he kind of feels he wants to ease Dan into the situation rather than, going full pelt with him, But
I mean, I get it with Nundulu, but what I would also say about Dan Nundulu is the guy is a beast. Put him up front because he is going to cause issues for teams. He's big and he's strong and he's powerful, and he is going to cause issues. He might not set the game alight, he might not change the game, but he will give you a different option up front, and he will cause teams problems because of how big he is. He's a unit. And for me, I think he's not making the best of Dan Nundulu at the moment. I get he doesn't want to drop him in at the deep end. He doesn't want to put pressure on him. I get that. But he's not going to benefit from just sitting on the bench game after game. He does need minutes. And no offence to Ralph, the odd minute here and there is not going to do Dan Nundulu any good. He needs a little bit longer. Give him 10 minutes at the end of a game and just see what he can do.
Quick comeback on that, Mark, and we'll move on, okay? But basically, all I was going to say in relation to that was I kind of get what you're saying about Dan Lindaloo. He's a powerful striker, and he can do things on the burst that can be quite devastating. But on the flip side of that, for large periods in games, he can go missing, and that's an issue. For large periods in games, he can go missing. But then the other thing that I would say as well is that in regards to the substitutions at Fulham, I didn't understand what the point was of bringing Dan Lindaloo and Djenepo on for such a short period of time. I mean, one of them came on for about 3 minutes and the other one came on for about a minute, And I'm sat there going, it's pointless. It's pointless. Ralph needs to get to the concept of substitutes are on the bench, they affect outcomes of games. Unless you're prepared to give them a certain period of time, they're not going to be able to deliver for you.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And that brings us really nicely to the end of that review of the Saints versus Fulham game.
Fiesta 95 FM, the Two Saints Show.
Right, welcome back, everybody. So, the Two Saints review of Saints 0, West Ham 0. Saints held by the Hammers, obviously. Hasenhüttl praises Saints' stability. Stevens dissects frustrating draw. Yeah, Jack Stevens came out after the game and said, we're happy with the point we move on, which which I'm getting a bit sick of hearing from all of them, to be fair. It's getting as repetitive as we march on, and the famous words that you trotted out from Højbjerg every single week. Oh, we know what we do is not good enough. We need to improve. It's getting a bit repetitive, lads. We get it. You're happy with the point, move on. That's great. Now build on it. Stop saying we're going to move on. Move on now. Okay, you keep getting draws, which is great. You're not losing. Fantastic. We've had a great start to the season. Not knocking the team for the efforts. They do look tired at the moment, to be fair. And I'm not using that as an excuse because it isn't one. But we have got a limited squad and we are making the best of it at the moment.
Right,
but,
Leicester's
I think, in fairness, Mark, hang on, let me finish. In fairness, I think we've all got a little bit greedy with our Welsh Saints plays, and we're now disappointed that we're not getting 3 points when we're drawing.
Oh, so, behave. Please, mate, behave. We're all...
Anyway.
Don't forget, I know we're recording this, but we're still on air. Behave. What I was going to say was, I mean, this nonsense of the all look tired, the all look jaded, it's the same for every team.
I'm not debating that for a moment.
There's no difference, you know. And the thing is why do people? All right, let's put it another way. Why do people look tired? Why do they look jaded? Right? Because there isn't
over Christmas.
There isn't the depth of squad.
Yeah, I agree.
The depth of squad.
No, I agree. Right? I think we're making the best of what we've got. I
just want to move the conversation on because. For once, I'm not going to say anything about the West Ham performance. Suffice to say, we weren't moving the ball quickly enough. That's nothing to do with being jaded because you should be able to get energy from your performances that you're making. But the one thing that I would say was, you know, not moving the ball quickly enough doesn't create openings for yourself. Now, West Ham came and did a job on us because they came to get a result. Now, whether that was going to be a draw or nick it, you know, they probably were looking to nick it, but you know, they did a job on us. We have secured 1 point in 7 games against them. The last 7 games that we have played against West Ham, we've got 1 point.
Cool.
Right, cool. And therein lays a history. You know, you could draw a line between Saints' results going into this fixture and West Ham's results going into this fixture, and it would have told you that a draw was on the cards. I think in the previous show I actually said that the game would finish a draw. You know, I said 2-2, but I did say draw. You know,
in fairness, going into the game, I would have been happy to take a point because they are a bogey team. We don't often beat them. I would have taken a point going into the game, but I must admit I am disappointed we only got a point from the game because I felt we could have taken 3. But for me, not just that game, the Fulham game as well, the biggest issue for me is we can't make decisions in the final third at the moment. We're great defensively. The resolve at the back's fantastic. We're doing well with that. And in the midfield, not too bad. We give the ball away a little bit too often, but you can combat that. You can get around that. But the problem for me is the final third. When we get 18, 25 yards from goal, we seem reluctant to put the ball in early or at all, really. We don't cross it very often. And we don't create a lot of chances in the final third for whatever reason. Sometimes it's like the players are too scared to put the ball in or they're too scared to give away possession. And the problem is we end up actually giving up possession because we keep the ball for too long and we don't move it quickly enough. And for me, I get why we play sideways and backwards at times. It's to change the angle of attack, which is great, provided there's an end product to that. The problem for me at the moment is we change the angle of attack quite often, but we don't actually then do anything with it. So it's great if you can change the angle of attack and do it quickly and get the ball in early, but we seem reluctant to do that. So for me, that's part of the issue at the moment. We're not creating enough chances, but that's something they can work on.
I'm glad you covered that because that wasn't what I was going to pick up on. But I'm glad. No, genuinely, I'm glad you covered that because it's a fair point. But the thing that I was going to say, Mark, was that for me, you know, I said I was going to say very little, but I will say this. Right, and it isn't going to sit well with a lot of Saints fans. So okay, man.
Well, we're not here to please everyone, Mark. We're here to entertain.
What's new? I'm enemy number 1. But Ralph decided that he was going to try a bit of wing play, right? He was looking for a bit of width. So Stuart Armstrong gets sacrificed. Haven't got a problem with that. I feel that Stuart's very good at running between, going into that space between the lines and causing difficulty for defenders in those type of areas on the pitch. And maybe, the last few games, it hasn't really came off for him as much as, we would have liked.
Yep.
So Ralph decided, I'm going to change it slightly. We're going to go with a bit more width. We're going to bring in Djenepo, and we're obviously, we've got Theo Walcott down the other side. Now, I don't know for you, but neither of them cut the mustard last night. I know you think I'm harsh, right? But I'm going to say something that's probably going to upset a lot of Saints fans, right? Theo Walcott needs to stop diving, right?
Yeah, I agree.
He's going the ground in the penalty box when he clearly hasn't been touched, and I don't like seeing it, right? And the thing is while he made an instant impact, I don't deny it, whenever he first came here.
Yeah.
I've got to say, in the way that he's being, whether it's in the way he's being deployed, I don't know.
Yep.
But are we getting the maximum out of him, or is this something that he's picked up over his career? Because I keep saying it, Mark. To me, as a player, he's been an enigma. His career, he's been an enigma.
Career. It's an unfulfilled career.
He has not fulfilled that potential that was there.
Mark, for me,
I wanted to see him do it.
What I'm going to say now is going to upset a lot of people, but this is just true. This is my point of view on it, but this is what I feel is the case. You look back to Theo when he first broke through at Saints, okay, and you look at Theo now, and for me, there's very little difference between Theo at 16 and Theo now. I don't think he's actually learnt an awful lot throughout his career, and it is an unfulfilled career for me. He hasn't hit the heights that he could have done. He hasn't fulfilled the potential he clearly has. And for me, when you look at Theo now, he does the sort of runs he did when he was a lot younger. And to be fair, at the time when he broke into the Saints team, we were playing at a much lower level. So he made a huge impact, to be fair, even at 16, 17, which led to him going to the World Cup when he was probably too young, led to his move to wherever. Maybe that was too early in his career, whatever. But the bottom line is, I don't see much difference between Theo now as a man and Theo when he was a boy. He says he feels a bit more like he used to as a teenager, and he probably does. And to be fair to him, he looks like he's playing more like that. But there isn't enough end product at the moment coming from Theo. I understand what got him in on loan. Good move, made an immediate impact. But for me, him and Djenepo, they both go down too easily and give up possession too easily at the moment. And I know Saints fans aren't going to like that, but that's just how I see it, and that's just a fact. They do go down too easy, both of them. And there's no point playing as a winger if you're not going to be a winger. And for me, if you're a winger at the moment in the Premier League, you have to be direct. And for me, the strength of Djenepo and the strength of Walcott is being direct. And for whatever reason, they didn't do it last night, and they haven't done it the last few weeks they've played. And I don't understand that. Maybe it's, as you say, not being deployed correctly, but surely the instruction would be, get the ball out to these guys, get some width in the game, get the ball out to these guys and tell them to attack people. Why they seem reluctant to do that, I don't know. But to me, they seem to keep the ball for too long, go down too easily, hand over possession to the opposition, and we're immediately under pressure. And it was the same last night with West Ham.
I'm with you on the direct thing, because when they're, and this applies to both, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
When they're both direct, that's when they're at their best.
Yeah, and they're a threat.
And I don't necessarily think Theo's an out-and-out winger.
No.
Again, he's sort of one of those players, a bit like Stuart Armstrong. He can play in between the lines. That's how I would see him.
Yeah, for me,
I don't look at him as an out-and-out striker neither.
For me, Theo's always been the sort of player that should sit in that Buffon role, in behind the front two. Yeah. Get balls fed into him so he can attack teams, so he can create chances for other people. For me, I've always seen Theo as a creator that can play in that number 10 role, sort of just behind the front two, feed balls into him, and he can cause damage to people because he can, with his pace and his vision, his passing ability, which he has got when he uses it. He's quite capable of providing really good assists. And if you look back through his career, he's probably been more successful with assists than goals, to be fair. But it's when he played in that number 10 role, he seems to have been at his best.
Yeah, I mean, all I'm going to say is both of them weren't involved enough for me. Djenepo gets a recall basically because, Ralph wants to play with a bit of width. right? And both of them, for me, didn't get involved in the game anywhere. I mean, they might as well have been passengers on a sea ferry.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you're going to play with width, your wide men have to stay wide, and they don't. They come in.
Yeah, no. But the only other thing I want to say about the game, Mark, and it's important to raise this, because to me, right, there has to be an introspective where people look at things that have gone on in the game, even if they're not highlighted during the game, right? Because Craig Dawson, who got man of the match,
it's unbelievable,
right? He should be on a suspension, mate, for what he did. He blatantly, because the ball had gone. The ball wasn't even in shot, right?
Yep.
And then he deliberately tries to kick the head clean off of Shea Adams.
Yeah, and he can't even defend it. I've watched the replay back, and he's not even looking at the ball. He's looking down at Shea Adams when he swung his foot at him. For me, it's blatant.
And again, surely there has to be some introspective in relation to some sort of ban or some sort of misdemeanor, something. But the thing is as well, when they announced the man of the match, right? I mean, I don't know what game they were watching as well, but the thing is it summed up the game for me. Craig Dawson, who's, he's what, 33?
Yep.
And he's winning man of the match. That tells you what a terrible game it was to watch.
Yep.
I mean, people turn, as Saints fans bemoan when we're last on Match of the Day. I mean, to me, last night's match wouldn't have even made the Match of the Day edit.
Yeah. I've got to be honest, it all would have been on the cutting room floor for me. We weren't even worthy of getting on Match of the Day.
Exactly. It was that. I mean, don't get me wrong.
My highlights of the Saints game.
Yeah. It's a point, whatever. Yeah. But the thing is the game was poor.
We have a right to be disappointed as fans because we've seen what the team are capable of. And that's why we're disappointed. It's not that we're trying to batter them. We're not. They've had a fantastic start to the season. 2020 has been a fantastic year for Saints. If you look at the actual table for the whole of it, fantastic. The last 23, 24 games, they've been brilliant. They've only lost about 3 games out of 23 or 24. Fantastic. But we have a right to be disappointed that they didn't get 3 points because they were capable of doing it.
Yeah, and the thing is, again, it would have been a benchmark. Again, I said to you off sort of the record that, Hasenhüttl has won away at Burnley this year.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
So to me, that would have been another benchmark, another box tick if we had have gone and got the 3 points. I don't, fair enough if they do it in the away fixture, right? I'll be over the moon if they do it in the away fixture against West Ham, but it's a bogey thing that we've got to lay to rest at the minute for me with West Ham, because the thing is like, the other thing that I couldn't understand was we had wide players on the pitch, right? Danny Ings was back, James Ward-Prowse was back. It didn't make any difference, right? West Ham had Yarmolenko on the pitch. They had Lanzini on the pitch. They had, Fornells on the pitch. They had loads of these creative players that didn't play against Brighton. And Moyes got hammered for it, and he played them on Tuesday night, last night. And the thing is when you sit there and you think you've got all those creative players on the pitch, and yet the game was a void of any real opportunity.
Unbelievable. Oh, I mean, I was just... And the thing is as well, I mean, West Ham as well, they had a player that had been banned in the previous game. They overturned the decision he plays anyway. I'm just like, that's an absolute farce. The guy got basically a suspension, shouldn't have played kind of thing. But for me, like you say, it was completely devoid of any sort of quality of any kind from either side. And with that amount of attacking players on the pitch for West Ham, it's even more staggering, to be fair.
It is, It is. I think just something that sprung to mind to me, and I thought to myself, when you think of the personnel that was on that pitch, from a creative point of view, and yet there wasn't anything of significant note that I could lay my hand on. Okay, Danny Ings scored, but the goal was clearly offside. But the game was a void of any real quality.
Absolutely right. But let's hope we learn from it. And we've got a day off, obviously, today or tomorrow, I believe. So they've got one day off, the players. So a little bit of chance for a bit of a recovery and a bit of a rest. I think they should only have the one day off because they need to be back as soon as possible. So they've got plenty of time to learn ahead of the Liverpool game when we absolutely smash them on Monday. So anyway, that brings us to the end of the Two Saints review of Saints 0, West Ham 0. And we're just going to go for a very short break. And when we come back, we'll be giving you the second half of the show today. And coming up in the second half, we have Saints Club news, other football news, and the Two Saints preview of Saints versus Liverpool. So we'll be back very shortly. Stay tuned.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints show.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So, Saints Club news. Ralph Hasenhüttl outlines the January transfer plan. As the January transfer window approaches, Ralph Hasenhüttl has outlined his approach to potential new signings. He said, if you want to do something, then we do something for the future, like we did in the last window in January with Kyle Walker-Peters. Maybe a player brought in on loan, then give him half a year's chance to show if he's good enough for us, then we decide in the summer if we want to buy him. I think this is the best way to handle it, and everything else doesn't make sense. The squad's okay. In every position, we have double players there, and it's okay. In the moment, we're more focusing on extending contracts and bringing players in because we've done in the summer 3 signings. I think this must be enough for this season. Not sure I agree on that 100%, Mark, but bringing players in on loan and seeing if they're good enough certainly makes sense rather than making a huge signing that costs us a load of money that ends up not playing like we did with Guido Carrillo, which was a massive error, wasn't it? So if it stops us making errors in the market, it's probably a good idea, I think.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we've spoke about this many times. My belief is the main target is bringing in a left back, and I think Brandon Williams is the candidate, whether we get him or not. But apart from that, I don't see anything else happening. And he'll come in on loan to get relative game time because he's not getting it at Man United, and we won't be signing him in the summer. So Ralph to suggest that it's nonsense, I mean, to be honest, it's a bit of a nonsense conversation. So yeah, well, let's see what happens. Maybe I might be surprised, but that's what I see as the head of our business in the January.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot else happening, but we certainly need to have a left back, don't we? Because obviously Ryan Bertrand's doing as well as he can at the moment, but he certainly could do with a bit of cover, couldn't we? So it makes let Matt Targett go look even more of a poor decision, doesn't it? But anyway, we'll see how they get on, Mark, as you say. Right, moving on from there. So Southampton Football Club has taken the decision to close the Saints store at West Quay from the 31st of January as part of the ongoing improvements to its retail offering. The news follows on from the complete overhaul of the club's online retail store at the start of 2020. Obviously, online sales have increased. Not good news for those fans who use the West Quay store. And I know you yourself have used it as one of your friends has as well, Mark. It's disappointing. But at least you'll be able to get more stuff on your match days when you're at St Mary's in the future.
all I'd say, Mark, is I'm actually with the club on this. Because I've got to be honest with you and say that even though I do go in and use the West Quay shop quite a bit, and you've taken me there on the odd occasion. I mean, I've got to say, you're talking prime site in the landmark sort of shopping centre in Southampton in the middle of the city, and I would have thought that the rents are fairly high.
Oh, it's extortionate.
Okay, and while the store isn't being used, for example, at the moment, right? Saints aren't reaping any benefits from it, so. And I've also got to say that even though you'd sit there and you think it's in the heart of the city, people can go in there and do their Saint shop while they're in town, right? I've got to tell you, mate, I've been in there loads and loads and loads of times, and I've been the only person in the store.
In fairness, I don't actually believe it's in a prime location in Southampton. It may be in West Quay, but I actually think if it was on the main part of West Quay, if you come in from above bar, it would have made more sense and it would have had more people there.
Yeah,
but it's round the back end of it, kind of the other side of it, round by Showcase Cinema. And for me, it's not a prime location at all. And I think that's probably part of the reason they've struggled. It's not one of those areas at West Quay that's that busy normally, funnily enough. And as you said, you've gone in there, you've been the only person. even on days when it's been busy, it's never been packed.
It's generally I'm not busy, and I don't understand. It's generally not busy, and I don't understand these people who are online and they're having a meltdown about it, because I sort of sit there and think, that's grand, you have a meltdown, why didn't you use it when it was there for you to use?
The thing is, I'd understand it if there was no Saints store of any kind, but we've got a really good store at the stadium, to be fair. It's a fair size. They get a decent amount of stock in there. If you really want your Saints memorabilia and Saints gear, why wouldn't you want to buy it from the stadium? It makes sense. You're there on a match day anyway. Why wouldn't you?
It's more retail. There's more retail space there as well. Yeah. I mean, you look at the actual store that they had at West Quay. Yeah. There's not a lot of room.
Well, the thing is as well, Mark, even on a match day when it's absolutely heaving at the stadium, you can still get in and out of the mega store at the stadium pretty quickly. You're not queuing for ages.
100%. But I also think, I mean, on the flip side, I'm sort of supportive of the club in the decision to sort of close it, because it must be a financial drain, right?
But yeah, the thing is, people saying, it's a diabolical decision, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's not. Nobody knows what sort of a loss they're taking on it. And to be fair, you've also got to remember, we've got a club at the moment with an owner who's not prepared to make any investment. So as an ongoing concern, it makes more sense to close it. Yeah. And as I say, we don't know the loss they're taking on it. If they're not trading, they're making a loss on it. And the rents in West Quay are extortionate. They're huge.
On the flip side, right, they're saying that one of the reasons why they're shutting it is because they're getting more online orders. Yeah. Since I still haven't received any of my goods from the season ticket vouchers. Any chance of getting it? I was promised before Christmas. Is there any chance of you sorting it out for me?
We'll be getting to an update on something in a minute, Mark. So
I just find it ironic when they're sat there going, online sales, that's where the future is. And I'm thinking to myself, you can't even get that sorted out.
Well, when I cover one of the articles that's upcoming at the moment regards to replica shirts, you'll understand what they've been saying, and hopefully a bit of light at the end of the tunnel for you, Martin. And I'd certainly urge you to get in touch with the club once I've read this article. Anyway, moving on to the ticket office hours. So this is ticket office hours over New Year. Details of the latest opening hours for Southampton's Football Club's ticket office are available. Bit strange that they're putting these out there because obviously nobody's able to get any tickets to go anyway. But anyway, so the hours are Thursday the 31st of January, 31st of December, closed. Friday 1st of January closed. 2nd of January closed. 3rd of January closed. 4th of January closed. 5th of January 10 till 4 p.m. open, and Wednesday the 6th 10 till 4 p.m. open. Seems a bit strange considering nobody can go and watch any matches, but there you go. I guess if you need to get your refund,
you try and ring them. You try and ring them during those hours, and you got no chance of getting hold of anybody. But
Yeah, and unfortunately, you won't be able to go to the West Quay store to actually talk to anybody about tickets there because obviously it won't be open.
No, I mean, to be fair, at least, I get that, they can't be doing a food operation in the current climate all the time. So you've got that option. Tuesday and Wednesday, it looks like it hasn't sort of changed. Everybody's getting an extended break, which, I've got to say, it's nice for people to be able to spend time with their families. But having said that, it looks like we're back to Tuesday and Wednesday, and yeah.
Absolutely. So, moving on. Following confirmation that Southampton will fall under Tier 4 of the government's local restrictions tier system, both Saints stores at St Mary's and West Quay will close till further notice. The club would like to reassure fans who are yet to claim their complimentary sportsbet.io shirt that they'll still be able to do so in-store once government guidance allows us to open Saints stores. Well, it won't be stores, it will be store, because obviously the West Quay store is due to shut as of tomorrow permanently. So, for this reason, updated replica shirts are currently unavailable online to ensure they can fulfil the complimentary shirts for all supporters who previously bought the 2020-21 Audi Sports shirt before the 1st of October. They'll provide fans with an update once the store is able to reopen again, and they apologise for any inconvenience caused. Supporters can still get merchandise at the online Saints store, including the 2020-21 Under Armour replica shirts featuring Audi Sports. Plus, you can get great savings in our winter sale for a limited time only. So there you have it.
Any idea how long that limited time is, Mark? No?
Well, I shouldn't imagine it'd be very long. It'd be quite limited. If they're on about the end of January, well, that's not long at all, is it, really?
No.
You probably have a month if you're lucky. But what I found quite ironic was the fact that they said, if we're able to open the Westquay store before the end of when we said we're going to close it, we will actually have a flash sale, and it'll be everything's got to go.
It is the end of January, by the way. It closes, not tomorrow.
Yeah, the end of January, everyone. Sorry, I do apologise. Wrong month. Right date, wrong month.
Yeah, right date. Yeah, right date, wrong month.
Absolutely. So yeah, but there is a winter sale on. I believe the winter sale at the moment is about 70% off. So if you want to bargain online, I'd get on there now.
Yeah.
Although I won't be buying the match day shirt, because the match day shirt they've got is absolutely horrific. Looks like something your dad would have cleaned the car with back in the 70s. What are you cleaning the car with, Dad? Is that your underpants? So anyway, moving on from that horrific memory. Right, Women's FA Cup's fixture postponed, which is disappointing. Southampton FC women's fixture at home to Plymouth Argyle in the Vitality Women's FA Cup, which was scheduled for Sunday, has been postponed. The decision was taken in line with the FA's latest guidance around non-elite protocols issued following the latest team restrictions. A new date for the fixture will be confirmed once known, while an update on Southampton FC Women's League fixtures will also follow in due course. So a bit of disappointment, Mark, wouldn't it? Because they've been riding high again.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that worries me is going forward, Mark, because obviously the girls were leading it, as we all know, the girls were leading the league last season, and, it wasn't allowed to stand, so therefore they ended up in the same league. They've done the same, more or less the same this season. So all I really hope for the women, is that, they get to finish the season this time round, even if it means having to go into the summer, and there's cricket going on. I don't care, but I want to see the women's season finished this time round, because they deserve it. They deserve to be allowed the opportunity to, get promoted, and lift the trophy if that's what's going to happen. But as I say, they seem to have left off where they were last season, and I just hope they get that opportunity, man. It would be soul destroying if for a third time, it was null and void, and everything starts from scratch again.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, definitely. So yeah, that brings us to the end of Saints Club news. So let's hope that happens for the women. But yeah, that's the end of the Saints Club news for now.
Fiesta 95 FM. The Two Saints Show.
Welcome back, everybody. So, other football news. Dundee United announced the death of legendary manager Jim McLean, aged 83. Jim McLean, the manager who led Dundee United to unprecedented success in the 1970s and 80s, has died at the age of 83 after a long battle with illness. He led United to the Scottish Premier Division title in 1982-83 after consecutive League Cup triumphs in 1979 and 1980. He also took the club to the European Cup semi-finals in 1983-84 and the UEFA Cup final 3 seasons later. The Scottish Premiership side confirmed the news on Saturday. So, very sad news, Mark. You probably know an awful lot more about Jim McLean than I do, to be fair. So I'll hand over to your superior knowledge for the moment.
I'll tell you, mate. Basically, when I heard the news on Boxing Day, it was soul destroying for me, Mark. I've always took a keen interest in the Scottish football, and basically the thing with Jim McLean was he managed to, put Dundee United on the map at the same time as Aberdeen was emerging with Alex Ferguson. And as I say, they were known at the time as the new firm, basically in reference to Rangers and Celtic, which was the old firm. And the thing is it was refreshing to have both sides in Scottish football, because it basically meant that, it was a really significant time. I mean, Dundee United won the league. Aberdeen won the league. There was the rivalry even between Jim McLean and Alex Ferguson. Aberdeen won the European Cup Winners' Cup against Real Madrid and they beat Bayern Munich. you know, and I've said this about Jim McLean. I mean, the thing is like he was a bit of a throwback. He used to keep an eye on all the players in the same way Fergie did, even when he came down to United.
There's actually a quote, Mark, while you're saying about his impact and stuff. There's actually a quote, one line that stands out, which I think is brilliant. It says, "When he barked, you jumped."
Yeah, and I'll give you a prime example of that. There was a midfielder, right, that played for Dundee United at the time called Eamon Bannon, right? And Eamon Bannon used to get dog's abuse from Jim McLean, you know, in the fact that Jim McLean was obviously intimating that he was being lazy, where he wasn't. You know, he was trying to get round the pitch, but he always seemed to pick on, you know, this one player, Eamon Bannon, and Eamon Bannon was a very, very gifted midfielder.
Yep,
you know, absolute quality midfielder. The one thing that I would say, Mark, is, and that this is why I'm saying, you know, they would go out of a night, say, you know, the players. But the thing is like, Jim McLean would know about it because he'd have his spies out in Dundee, you know, and basically he could tell you where they'd been, you know.
Yep.
And that kind of thing. But the one thing that I want to say, and this is the best tribute that I can play to him, right? You know, besides winning the Scottish title, which was unheard of because it was always dominated by Celtic and Rangers. You know, the one thing that I want to say is, besides the European semi-finals twice and the UEFA Cup final that he got to, they were beaten by AFK Gothenburg in the final. But the one thing I wanted to say about him was, there's a great story that's always told about him, and it goes back to Dundee United hold a unique record, or a unique sort of setting in British football, because they're the only British team to have beaten Barcelona home and away in Champions League or in the old European competition, right? Over two legs. They're the only side to have beat them home and away over two legs. And that was during the time that Terry Venables was the manager, with Gary Lineker, Mark Hughes, all those players. Steve Archibald, I think, was there at the time as well. But the one thing that I'll always remember was they were beaten Barcelona, right? They beaten Barcelona in the new camp, and the Saturday before they were playing Forfar Athletic in the Scottish Cup, right? And they drew 1-1 with them. And this was the game before they played Barcelona in the new camp. And as I say, they'd just beaten Barcelona, and the chant went up from the Dundee United fans, "Bring on the Forfar." You know? And I'm sure the Barcelona fans were sat there thinking, what is going on here? You know, who's Forfar? But anyway, you know, the thing is like, you can't underestimate what he did in terms of what he did for Scottish football. Not only just for Scottish football, but for British football as well.
Yeah, the club actually issued a statement, and they actually said, an integral part of our history and rise to the forefront of European football, Jim was simply a titan of Dundee United folklore, cherished by the United family the whole world over. And his family, in a statement published by United, added, Jim was a much-loved husband, father, brother, uncle and father-in-law, and we will all sadly miss him. His remarkable 6-decade career made him a true legend, not only at Dundee but across the world of football. He managed United from 1971 to 93, and latterly was also the chairman of the Tannadice Club before resigning in 2000 after assaulting a BBC reporter. Naughty boy. His 31-year association with the club ended in 2002 when he sold his stake to Eddie Thompson. McLean, who led United in 10 cup finals overall, was also assistant to Scotland boss Jock Stein for 4 years, including in the 1982 World Cup finals. So we wish his family all the best, and rest in peace, Jim McLean, absolute legend at Dundee United and across the world of football. And another legend we've lost, Mark. Very sadly.
He has a brother, Tommy McLean, who's also involved in football. He, as a manager, he won the Scottish Cup with Motherwell. So, yeah, I mean, condolences to the whole family. As I say, I was generally, when I heard the news on Boxing Day, mate, I was generally upset, because I've always taken obviously it's not as close to my heart as Saints, but I've always taken a keen interest in football, being in Scottish football, being an Aberdeen fan as well. In
fairness, Mark, you're a football fan through and through, and it doesn't matter if it's Saints or anything else. You're a football fan. Saints is at your heart, but obviously you're a football fan.
But I will miss him. He was barking. He was his mad. The only reference I've got to him was, and Fergie's very similar to him, but the one reference point I've got to him is Brian Clough. I mean, he was barking mad at times, Jim McLean, absolutely barking mad.
Yeah, and the thing is, I look at things that stick out in football that give you memories of people, and you say you'll miss him because he's barking mad. Nobby Stiles, we'll all remember that iconic picture of him, the video of him with the World Cup in one hand, false teeth in the other, doing a little jig at Wembley. Yeah. Things like that stick out in your mind, and you don't forget them, do you?
We've lost a lot of good football people.
And Jack Charlton saying, don't confuse me and Bobby. I can stop people playing. Bobby's the one that can play, which I thought was a really good quote from Jack Charlton, one of his best quotes, I thought. Surprisingly, they did get confused, the two of them, which is surprising, but there we go. Anyway, moving on, obviously we just mentioned Jack Charlton and Nobby Stiles, and that brings us quite nicely on to the next article, which is Ryan Mason, who says that heading in football might not exist in 10 to 15 years. Heading might not exist in football in 10 to 15 years' time because of the risks involved, former Tottenham and Hull midfielder Ryan Mason says. Mason capped once by England and had to retire from football, famously after fracturing his skull playing for Hull in 2017. And a recent study showed footballers are 3.5 times more likely to suffer from dementia. And he went on to say, it wouldn't surprise me in 10 to 15 years if heading wasn't involved in the game. The research and momentum it's getting, I think it's probably going to open up a lot more stuff that becomes quite shocking. I'm not sure footballers are fully aware of the potential damage. This is where more research, more understanding, more education current players get, the better. Absolutely, 100% agree with him on this one. I don't think concussion substitutes can happen quick enough. We had an incident the other day. Shay Adams gets kicked in the head. Nobody even bothered to look at him. I think that was a wrong decision. Things like that need to be looked at a lot more closely. It does happen. There is a link between heading in football and dementia. They can't say there isn't anymore. Sort it out, people. Seriously.
100%. 100%. And I've got to be honest, and I'm not trying to dig the person out because, it's his own feelings that he feels, he would be able to make a decision whether he can carry on or not.
Yep.
But a couple of weeks ago, when they were talking about the concussion substitutes and all that there, Troy Deeney came out and actually said, he felt that it was up to him to make the decision, not a doctor and I thought that just showed really poor judgment and not actually grasping, the situation as it is.
Yeah, no, I disagree with him completely because there's a reason they have doctors in boxing. And it's for that exact reason. It's to prevent anything serious if there's a concussion involved or anything like that. And boxing is one of those sports concussions involved nearly every week. So there's a reason they've doctors in the ring.
It's not even boxing. Yeah. They've had concussion substitutes in rugby union now for a while.
Right, to be fair, Mark, I played hockey years ago and only obviously wasn't at professional level.
Yeah.
But at the level we played hockey at, if somebody had a concussion, they went off and a sub came on. And that wasn't even something that was brought in. We just did that ourselves. So, even at junior hockey level it happened. So it needs to be looked at. And you've got kids coming up through the ranks as well. How long is it going to be before a child suffers a serious injury in a match and fractures their skull? Yeah. Is that when people are going to sit up and take notice? Because if that happens, you could have an absolute tragedy on your hands,
I remember what happened with Ryan Mason, because obviously he was playing for Hull at the time, and he had a clash of heads with Gary Cahill.
Correct.
And something as innocuous, mind you, it didn't look innocuous when you watched it back, but it looked innocuous in real time.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, that ended his career.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, Raul Jimenez recently, he's very lucky he's not actually had his career ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another player who's got a severe concussion.
100% with you on that.
Anyway, we'll move on from that one because it's quite depressing, actually, that. So we don't want to be talking about stuff too depressing for too long, unfortunately. Start of a new year. Let's have a bit of positivity if we can. Burnley takeover. ALK Capital are confident of completing a deal this week. So that sounds a bit more promising for Burnley. News, obviously, last week was the fact it looks as though it's falling through. Now it looks as though a deal's going through. Make your mind up.
I'm sat here, right? Last week, there wasn't a deal happening. Right now, new people have come in, right? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, here I am making all sorts of excuses for why Saints can't have any new investment because we're in the middle of a pandemic. Nobody's buying football clubs. Burnley's had offers galore for their football club.
We're doing something wrong at Southampton, I tell you. So what we're stuck with.
But all I would say about it is I mean, let's say this time it's a different bidder, right? It's not the same people, right? And I generally hope if it means that, you know, the supporters are given some sort of impetus and everything else, because let's be honest, you know, the manager Sean Dyche is doing the job with one arm tied behind his back, basically, and he is, you know, we talk about what Ralph does, and rightfully so, but it works the same way from where, you know, Sean Dyche is, you know, and he is doing a fantastic job for a club of that size.
Definitely. We'll move on to the next topic, which is coronavirus in the Premier League. Testing has revealed 18 cases now. I actually think we're heading towards another break mark at some point. I think they're going to put the brakes on and bring everything to a halt again. Concern for me is I'm concerned about the Saints camp, actually, and the fact they've been in close proximity to Fulham and other areas recently where obviously cases are quite prevalent. So for me, bad news. There's obviously bound to be a lot of cases. There's a new variant, and it's obviously a lot more virulent, we're led to believe. Obviously, Everton Man City was postponed. I believe there's another match that's been postponed already. Rochdale have got games postponed. So have Doncaster. Sheffield United have obviously had a record number of cases as well. I can see them shutting it down again.
Yeah, I mean, the game tonight as well was called off. But what I was going to say was, I mean, people want to see some sort of circuit breaker for 2 weeks. But
yeah.
I've got to be honest, Mark. I don't know. I think if they can sort of plough through it, and I'm not suggesting that this is what they should do. But you know, it's funny that Dave Merrington and Alan Blackmore were talking about it last night before the game. You know, Alan Blackmore was more of the opinion that, you know, the Premier League aren't going to suffer, financially, like was said, you know, and the thing is, you know, in relation to the players' welfare, I mean, as they said, you know, a player gets checked twice a week. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't even know where my test centre is. Do you know where your test centre is?
It is actually, Mark, at the O2 Guildhall. Well, that's where it was last time I saw it. Yeah, I saw one there quite recently when I was there.
All right, okay.
I believe that's where the testing is at the moment. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's where it is or was.
But the thing is if the general population, my point is, here we've got elite sportsmen, they get tested. I mean, and I'm not taking a cynical approach because you got to be aware of people's welfare and everything like that there. But let's be honest, Mark. You know, the thing is they get tested twice a week, you know, and they've got safeguards. You know, the general public don't have any of that, you know. I mean, you know, I could go to bed tonight and I'm feeling well, may not, you know, and I might wake up in the morning and all of a sudden I'm feeling terrible, you know.
Exactly.
And yeah. I might sit there and think, oh, it's a heavy cold or something, and it could be coronavirus. You know, I'm just making the point, but I mean, there probably, in hindsight, there probably needs to be some sort of circuit breaker or something like that there. But the other thing I want to say about it, and this is why I included it, right? The Premier League and this includes the clubs, because the decision was made between the clubs. It wasn't just the administrators at the Premier League making all the decisions, right? The thing that I found out the other night is they don't have any provisions in place if elite football was to stop tomorrow.
Wow.
And you would have thought that they would have had some sort of backup plan in place.
100%. 100%. Well, you'd expect no less, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Sorry, John. Anyway, moving on to Championship news, and obviously we'll see how things plan out, obviously, over the next few weeks and next couple of months. On to Championship news. Tony Pulis, Sheffield Wednesday manager, have sacked their manager after 10 matches in charge. Not very long at all. 10 matches didn't last long, did he? I guess they didn't like his brand of football. And Jack Wilshere is training with Bournemouth, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, on both points, Jack Wilshere, to me, is a bit of a Theo Walcott. Comes to the party with a big reputation, but, because of injuries, in his case, probably because of injuries, it's a case of, unfulfilled talent. And that's what you've got to say. It was unfulfilled talent. Because did we ever really see the best of him? Who knows? But it's a chance for him to get his career maybe back on track with the Cherries. I just hope that he's being sensible about what Bournemouth may be able to afford for him in terms of a contract. So it's a win-win. It's a win-win there. And the other one for me, this baffled me, Mark. Somebody comes in, he's had, 10 days or 10 games? Tony Pulis has got experience. And the thing is like, they're wanting to get themselves out of the position. I'm a bit cynical about it, if I'm honest, because you would have thought that they might have given, the transfer window. They haven't even given that. And I'm hearing that what they've decided to do, because obviously they haven't got rid of him. They've got a plan. It wasn't like they thought, right, we're sacking him. Where do we go from here? Right? Apparently, they're after the former Barnsley manager, who still has a home in Yorkshire. So apparently, they're after him now. It wasn't the guy that was with them at the end of last season. It was the previous one before that. I think he's Spanish or something like that there. But they're apparently being linked to him. But I do feel for Tony Pulis. I may not be an advocate of his style of football, a bit like Big Sam, but I do feel for him because he wasn't even given a proper opportunity. 10 games is nothing. Yeah, it's not even, it's not even a cricket season.
No, absolutely right. So we'll move on to an article relating to news coming out of League One. Cyril Louis-Dreyfus, or Cyril Louis-Dreyfus, whichever way you pronounce it, I'm not sure. Frenchman to buy Stuart Donald's controlling interest. An agreement's been reached for Cyril Louis-Dreyfus to buy Stuart Donald's controlling interest in Sunderland, paving the way for a takeover. The Frenchman will become chairman in the new year, subject to approval by the English Football League. Donald, who stepped down as chairman in July, holds a 74% stake in the club. It's been no secret I've been looking for some time to find the right person to take Sunderland forward, Donald told the club website. So there we go, Mark. Interesting.
Well, as you know, Stuart Donald used to be the chairman of Eastleigh. Yep. But this one didn't surprise me. He's been trying to sell for the last season or so. And basically now that a deal's been done, it would look that obviously Donald, hopefully Stuart Donald's put it in safe hands because, there were a few bids actually on the table. He's gone for this bloke because obviously, he's come, he's seen the area, he's going to go and live in the area once the takeover takes place and stuff like that there. And, he wants to be very involved with the community from the noises that I'm hearing. So hopefully it's a win-win. And obviously there's going to be investment, which obviously is key for Sunderland at the minute. I mean, they recently lost Phil Parker. They got rid of Phil Parkinson as the manager, and they appointed Lee Johnson, Gary Johnson's son, who was the Bristol City manager previously. So, we just have to wait and see if it's a marriage made in heaven or hell. But I would imagine, hopefully, with the takeover taking place, the new owner's going to move the club forward.
Yep. So, moving on to European football, interesting story this one. Paris Saint-Germain, Mauricio Pochettino is main contender to replace Thomas Tuchel. Former Tottenham manager Mauricio Pochettino is the main contender to take over at Paris Saint-Germain after Thomas Tuchel was sacked. It's quite strange though. The last training session he held this week, he actually led PSG to a 4-0 win and then got sacked.
Yeah, I mean,
Mauricio Pochettino being tipped to take over from him.
I've got to be honest. PSG have been just looking for an excuse to get rid of Thomas Tuchel. They got their first European Cup final or Champions League final, if you like, last season. They're currently second in the league. Okay, normally they're romping away with it, but having said that, I don't think Thomas Tuchel's done that bad a job. I think one of the problems is, in terms of the manager, the people that PSG bring in are kind of out of the manager's hands. It's the owners and the money men that make the decisions. In the sense of like PSG's run a bit like Real Madrid back in the day, where they have their Galacticos players or Galactico players, and and the managers more or less made to sort of fit these top names like, the likes of Mbappe and people like that there, and obviously you got Neymar there, and the thing is like I don't think Thomas Tuchel was doing that bad a job. I mean, okay, the won the domestic title, they win it every season, they were probably going to win it this season. Could he have gone one step further and won the Champions League? Because obviously for the owners, that's sort of like what the Holy Grail is. But I think the thing is it's not long after Thomas Tuchel took the job, Mark, right? A few months even into the job, it did seem like it was a case of he doesn't fit the profile that we want. Whereas obviously, and I don't necessarily, agree with that, because we were looking at Thomas Tuchel at one point, if you remember, and I thought, well, there's no way he's ever going to come to Saints. Like, he's a bit bigger than that. But mind you, I was surprised that Hasenhüttl came to Saints, but there you go. But having said that, I think it's a question of, obviously, Pochettino coming in, it raises the profile. I tell you that the analogy that I would use would be, right, in the late 70s, right, Manchester United, after they got rid of Tommy Docherty, right, they brought in Dave Sexton. Now, Dave Sexton was a decent manager in his own right, and he finished in his second season when United went up, right? In his second season, United finished second, right? And they decided not to renew his. Everybody thought they were going to renew his contract, and they didn't, right? And one of the reasons why they didn't was he was a brilliant coach, but you stick a microphone in his face, right? And he said very little, right? Whereas Tommy Docherty was always flamboyant. And of course, what happens? They get rid of Dave Sexton and they brought in Ron Atkinson. And Ron Atkinson was like, I mean, his nickname was Goldfinger.
Well, in fairness, Mauricio Pochettino said very little at Saints, Mark. And he was quite fluent after that.
No,
Don't
but
say that.
that was for completely different reasons. But I just think to myself, they want someone, it was obvious to me that they were looking for someone who was slightly more high profile, could handle the media well and stuff like that there. And it is my belief that even after a couple of months, the hierarchy of PSG had came to the conclusion that he wasn't the manager, because it's not just even about managing the team now. If you're at a big club where they want us, the brand, all about the brand and all that there, the manager has to be, great at press conferences, have a personality. And I think Thomas, they took the decision based on that. I'm not saying it's right, because I'd have Thomas Tuchel any day of the week.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yeah, don't go anywhere, Ralph. That doesn't mean we want you to leave now. We don't. Anyway, we'll move on to another story now. Spain striker Diego Costa, Chelsea fans will obviously be well aware of who he is, as well as Premier League fans, is a free agent after Atletico Madrid agreed to end his contract early, paving the way for a possible Premier League return. It's a little bit misleading, the article, actually, because what actually happened is the striker asked to leave the club for personal reasons a few days ago, and on Tuesday signed the termination of his contract at Atletico. The club thanks him for his dedication during his years and wish him well in the next stage of his professional career. And no, Saints fans, don't get carried away. He won't be coming to us. Free or not, he's going to cost an absolute bomb in wages.
There is this, I mean, the thing is, Mark, and this wouldn't necessarily surprise me, but where they're getting the wages from, I don't know. I'm expecting that Jordi Mendes will probably work his magic on this one. But obviously, Ralph Jimenez is injured, and they're desperate for an out-and-out striker.
Yep.
Much as it
the Wolves in Arsenal.
I've got to be honest, much as I don't want to see him back in the Premier League, because I think he's a dirty so-and-so. But I think probably Wolves will try to see if they can tempt him back into the Premier League.
I would not rule that out at all.
No.
Anyway, moving on. Dynamo Dresden fans have brought 72,000 tickets for the match in an empty stadium. How about that then, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I just...
72,000 fans have brought tickets for a match in an empty stadium.
You were looking for a positive, right? So I thought I'd end this section on a positive news story. So this is the news that Dynamo Dresden has been struggling to pay their players' wages. And the fans... I mean, I'd love us to do something like this, because I'd be willing to do it. I know a lot of Saints fans probably wouldn't, but, the thing is like, I just love the idea of actually coming together, being supportive of the players and everything else. If Saints were ever struggling, I mean, I dare say they're never going to be, because, it's the German third tier. It's not the English Premier League. But I just thought it was a fantastic gesture. It's probably, 20, 30 quid a head for a game in Germany.
Yeah, this is staggering. £5 each, these tickets were.
£5 each.
Fantastic.
It's fantastic. You can't, and the gesture, even if maybe the money doesn't go to, the players. I mean, some of the players obviously will get money from the gate. But, I'm sure the rest of the money will go to other things in the Dresden area where people are struggling and stuff like that. And I just think it's fantastic. And I wish, as a collective, we as a support base did things like that,
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I agree with that. And that is good news to end the section on, which is fantastic. So well done to them. I'd love to see that happen at Saints, but can't see it. But anyway, we live in hope, don't we? So anyway,
yeah, you never know. You never know. Some bright spark might take up the idea and run with it.
Absolutely right. So we're going to take the last break of today's show, and when we come back, we'll do the Saints preview of the upcoming match, Saints versus Liverpool, where we're absolutely going to smash them. We'll be back shortly.
It's the Two Marks, C&H, on the Two Saints Show, Fiesta 95 FM.
Welcome back, everybody. So the Two Saints preview of Southampton versus Liverpool. Saturday, the 17th of August 2019 at St Mary's Stadium, Andre Marriner, the referee. Southampton went down 2-1 to Liverpool. Danny Ings scored in the 83rd minute after Sadio Mane giving Liverpool the lead in the 47th minute, and Roberto Firmino rounded things off for them in the 71st minute via an assist by James Milner, the great footballer. In the return fixture, it was Liverpool 4, Southampton 0. That was obviously at Anfield. That was Saturday, the 1st of February. Kevin Friend was the referee. We went down 4-0. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, 47 minutes. Jordan Henderson, the 60th minute. Salah in the 70th minute. And then Roberto Firmino and Jordan Henderson with the assist there. We actually went down 4-0. It actually only lists 3 goal scorers there, Mark, not 4, sadly. But anyway, it doesn't make a lot of difference to the result. We still lost 4-0.
All of the reflection, just very quickly, the reflections on those games. I actually thought the previous season, which we played Liverpool on the Friday night, would actually give them more of a game than what we did at St Mary's start of last season. But having said that, in the away fixture from last season, that was an unjust scoreline. I mean, we gave as good as we got. Yeah, unfortunately, it was the old adage of once we conceded one, the floodgates kind of opened and everything went out the window then. But up until that point, we'd had quite a few good opportunities of our own making, and we probably could have been 2-0 up if memory serves me back from the Anfield game. But therein lies a tale. But having said all of that, I mean, I think looking at the fixture, Mark, the heart wants to turn around and say that it's going to be a Saints win, but and they do have one or two key individuals missing. I mean, you've got to be honest and say if Virgil was playing, he would have been up for this game. Ex-Saints player, all the rest of it. But I don't know. I'm hoping that Danny Ings might come back and haunt Liverpool a bit. A lot of what Saints are about, we keep saying it. I keep saying it anyway, because I only believe that we probably have about 3 quality players. We've got very workmanlike players, and they all do their job very well. But in terms of the quality, Theo Walcott he's a little bit like a tap. He can turn it on and off whenever he wants. I think in terms of his football, he's a little bit on the way in. So, I think I said the off piste here that, for me, we have JWP and we have Danny Ings, and if they're on their A games, like I'm always talking to you about this show, if they're on their A games, Saints have maybe the possibility of causing an upset, but obviously, realistically, you would think, if we can come away with something from the game, it's a bonus, and if it's 3 points, it's a double bonus.
Absolutely.
But let's see what happens. But it'll take a team collective for everybody to be, as we all say with this virus, be aware.
Yeah, I think in fairness, it will take Saints being at their best they can be at the moment to get anything from that.
Yeah,
100%. I actually think it can be 2-0 Liverpool. I hate to say it.
And I include the things that we were doing much more in the early season. In the early season, where moving the ball around quickly, people being energetic. I understand that the amount of games does take its toll and everything else, but they'll need to be up for it, psychologically, and if they are up for it, then who knows, mate? Who knows?
Yeah, and I think the last couple of seasons, if you look back with Ralph as well, at certain points in the season, we've had that little low in form, we've had a little dip, but then we kind of got to a point where we've come up against one team, and that one team has then kick-started another run. And we had it with Arsenal a couple of seasons ago, wasn't it? We went to Arsenal, got a result there, kind of kick-started everything. Went to City last season, that kind of kick-started a run then. So this might be one of those games where we go to Liverpool and it kick-starts a run again. Because they've got that in them, but my head's telling me it's going to be 2-0 Liverpool. My heart says Saints win. My heart says Saints get the points. But my head's saying Liverpool 2-0.
I just want to say it is at our place. It is at our place. So, but I'm gonna say sort of, Mark. I'm gonna say that we're gonna beat them 2-0.
I'll take that.
Honestly, it's like you said. You know, the thing is performance-wise, we've been a bit indifferent over the last few games. And it wouldn't surprise me at all. You know, all it would take is for Liverpool to have a little bit of an off day. You know, they weren't that convincing against West Brom recently. Yep. You know, and this is where I'm trying to take a little bit of heart out. All it takes for us to be playing and for Liverpool to have a bit of an off day. And yeah, I'm going to go 2-0.
I will say this much. I actually think it would be the 2 W's if we do win 2-0, given that Liverpool's defence are a little bit creaky at the moment. If we do win 2-0, I think the goal scorer is actually going to be Ward-Prowse and Walcott. I can see Prowse getting a free kick and sticking it in because he seems to get them against the better teams and score against them. He gave Man United no chance recently with that stonking free kick. David De Gea didn't get anywhere near. So I can see him sticking one of them away against Liverpool. And I think Theo might just pop up with an unlikely goal against Liverpool because he seems to score against the big teams. So if we do win 2-0, it'll be nice to score.
Just so as you know, when you hit the rewind button on this record, right? Just remember that you went for 2-0 Liverpool. It's me that went for 2-0 Saints.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if Saints win 2-0, that'll be the goal scorers.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Just, you know.
Any more tips for me? Any fantasy league tips you want to give me?
Yeah, don't listen to the word I say because I haven't got a clue.
Anyway, look, all I want to say is like, obviously that's, you know, us wrapping it up for the record. But I just want to say to people, you know, I hope that we've brought a bit of light relief and you've enjoyed listening to us. And basically, you know, look after each other, and also Happy New Year to all the listeners. Thanks for sticking with us, and
massive Happy New Year.
And we'll see you. We'll see you for the next record next week.
Absolutely right. So just remind everybody, the podcast will be coming out this week as well. So that's probably going to be available probably tomorrow, or I would say tomorrow, because obviously ahead of all the festivities, etc. So keep an eye out for the podcast. That'll be going up on YouTube and obviously on Facebook via our normal channels. And obviously don't forget, you can contact us via our email address, the Two Saints Podcast Show at outlook.com. And you can obviously catch us on Fiesta 95 FM every Thursday, 1 till 3 p.m. Thanks for tuning in today. It's goodbye from myself, Mark C, and goodbye from my co-host, Mark H. And please join us again next week.
Bye.
Please join us again next week when the Two Saints go marching in again.